Right. You kind of want to go at them as like a fun, creative thing rather than like, oh, I don't want to be in the real world, so I'm going to take something. A lot of the time, you get so in your head about like writing songs, and you end up kind of, as you're writing songs, you'll finish like a verse and be like, is this good? And you're like, well, you don't know, you know, you've just started it. But for me, a big part of it is just kind of getting out of my own head. Whenever I'm trying to write good music is usually when I write the worst music, or at least my least favorite music. I feel like sometimes like you'll write something and you'll either go, is this good enough? Or you get like a chorus that you think is really good, and then you're like scared of ruining it by writing like a bad verse or something. Sometimes it's yeah, I think it's kind of like, you know, if there's a song you don't like or something you don't like, in your head, even if it's like a subconscious thing, you can kind of be like, yeah, well, that wasn't really my choice, or that kind of thing. And then yeah, I mean, it's definitely putting obviously more of yourself out there, but I kind of, that's kind of what's exciting. I think for me a big part of it was like when I first came out of the band, I think I kept thinking like, oh, I don't want to make fun music, and a lot of that was a subconscious thing. I just didn't really want to make like I just didn't want to make the same music that we were making in the band. Not because I didn't like it, I just wanted it to be a different thing. I mean, I feel like it's not I mean, I got really lucky, first of all, with you know, and a lot of people, obviously, there's a lot of like arguments with people like, oh, I hate my label, and anything that goes wrong is like their fault and that kind of thing. And I have to say, like, Rob, who kind of runs my label, Columbia, that's a Sony, yeah. Rob Stringer, who's the head of Sony, he signed me, and he signed us in the band as well, so I've been with them for a while. But when I signed on my own, I kind of said, I called him and just said, like, I kind of need to go and like figure this out a little bit, and I'm not going to be able to do it if you're like breathing down my neck, basically. And he was amazing about it. He just said, like, I want to hear it when you're excited to play it to me. When you're ready, I'll hear it. So he came when the album was basically finished, and I think he was shitting himself quite a bit. And he said the first like 4 songs he felt like he was drowning, because he just didn't know, you know, he didn't know what he was expecting. He was like, I don't know what he's about to play me, I don't know what's about to happen, type thing. Well, no, it kind of happened a little more randomly than that. It was because I'd never really played her stuff before, and she was in London. There were some Fleetwood Mac shows in London, and she wakes up pretty late, and she wanted to go to dinner one of the nights, so I took her to this little Indian restaurant near my house. So it was pretty crazy. And then, so I just kind of finished the record, and then she said, oh, I want to come hear the album. And she was with like all her ladies. And then they all came back to the house. And I played them the album. And they're so used to like living nocturnally. They wake up really late, and then they kind of live through the night because they're, you know, witches. 3 a.m. playing the album. I'm like, I'm kind of tired. And they're like right in their prime. You know, they're really like, oh, this is like daytime for us. I'm exhausted. Well, I think the thing is obviously you hope she doesn't say that, but the biggest kind of advice she's always given me is to just do what I want to do. So there was a couple bits where like she thought the first single was wrong, and she thought a song that didn't go on the album should have gone on the album. You know, I was like, okay, I definitely thought about it, but Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the whole point is to just do. Okay, well, if I wanted it this way, and then she told me to change it, and I didn't, I must really want it this way. Yeah, and I think I've always noticed with like decisions I've made, when I start asking too many people, it's usually because I don't want to do it, and I'm waiting for somebody to tell me not to do it. I don't really know. I was at home, and I used to hate like people looking me in the eyes while I was singing. So I basically had like 3 songs that I was thinking about doing. And I went in the bathroom in my house. I was living with my mum and my sister. And I made them stand on the other side of the door of the bathroom. So I sang the 3 songs. I was like, which one do you think I should do? And then they said that one. So I did Isn't She Lovely through all of the like earlier auditions before you get on the TV show. I was in a band at school. So we did like a Battle of the Bands competition. We did win that. What did we win? We won like 10 hours of studio time or something. One of them is still doing the band, but he's the singer now. And then one guy he went to Italy. He like became like a chef or something. I'm in touch with, I speak to one of them a little bit, and I've spoken to another one kind of recently-ish, but not super recently, and then kind of lost touch with the other one. It was called Winter. Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is what you want to get from it. I think if you're looking for like fulfillment in music, and you want to like take songs and be like a massive pop star and just have people write the songs for you and sing them, then you'd think the goal is so that it's more successful. So then I just think you're measuring yourself on like the being successful part of music, which is fine and it's amazing and it works for a lot of people. I don't know, but then that's the only thing you're ever measuring it by. I feel like, I mean, to be fair, they did know better than us, because like when we started I was 16. So I also, everything was so new and exciting, and you're suddenly working with these big producers and big people, and like I never would have been confident enough to be like, actually guys, I'm going to write a song on this first album. So it was basically like the first album was pretty much done, kind of, you know, writers and stuff. Okay, we're going to do this song, and these guys have written this song, what do you think, and that kind of thing. I didn't know what really was going on. It was kind of like, it was all new, and I had no idea. I didn't go on the show thinking I was going to win. My mum actually entered me in to go, and we used to watch it as a family, and we were watching it one time, and somebody finished a performance, and I just said like, oh, it looks like so much fun. And then I went upstairs, and then a couple months later my mum was like, oh, you have an audition on Sunday. I was okay. I was a little scared, but it was the first round of auditions was at Old Trafford, which is where Man United play, and I was a massive Man United fan, so I was like, alright. It's kind of, it's kind of like one of those just out-of-body things, because it's so far out of my comfort zone. Like, all I did was school, and I worked in a bakery after school. I was okay. I'd love to say that I was that guy at high school. No, not really. It's kind of one of those where, like, I had dinner recently with this girl that I went to school with, and a couple friends, and one of them was, my manager was there, and they met, and he was like, was he the same in school? And she was like, yes and no. You know, similar in a lot of ways, and not very similar at all in some way. I had a little more timber on me back then as well. I was working in a bakery. Yeah, it wasn't great for the Also, like when you're kind of 14, 15, you got that bit of like puppy fat going on too. Yeah, he's amazing. He was like the guy when we were on the show. Like when we were on the show on X Factor, everybody was like, "That guy is so fucking good." Like his voice was amazing. He's just like a very talented musician. It's one of those things where like it definitely makes like I think about it all the time, and it kind of I guess just reminds me how lucky I am to be doing it, because I know there's, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of musicians who are so far superior to me as a musician, and not everyone gets to do it. It's like one of those things where I do think a lot of this stuff is about luck, and I do believe like some people make their own luck, but I also think so much of it is just about luck and timing, because when I look at it, there's no reason for it to have been me who got to do this. I mean, yes, talking to him is so fulfilling for so many reasons. Obviously, he's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. And has just like been through, you'd imagine, pretty much everything in terms of what that all kind of entails. And also he's so, it's kind of what I was saying earlier, like if you're somebody who's just taking the big songs to try and have a hit, at some point you don't have a hit, and then how do you feel when you don't kind of hit there? And he's someone who clearly just loves music and has never lost kind of gaining something from making albums and writing songs and stuff. And I went to watch him at the O2 last December, and like he plays for 3 hours, and you're like, he doesn't have to play for 3 hours, he clearly just loves it. You look at kind of all like the rockers and all those older guys, you're like, who ultimately do you want to be at the end of the day? You don't want to be the guy who died, you don't want to be the guy who's like whacked out on drugs. You want to be the guy who's, you know, 70 and playing for 3 hours because he can and because he wants to, and everyone's loving it and he's having fun. Yeah, I found it super inspiring, that show, actually. He's you know, he's incredible. Right. New York's just like a little much for me. I run in New York, which I like. It actually has made me enjoy the city a lot more. I mean, I think it's one of those things, because, you know, every two people you speak to, one of them says it's really scary and the other person says it's not that scary. I think it's like about, I mean, I don't know, it's one of those things where like, it's kind of like the simple stuff. You like wash your hands all the time and don't, you know, I don't really know. It's kind of one of those things where like, the traveling thing is hard. You don't really know how it's going to affect that stuff. But then the touring's like not the most important thing. So it's kind of just waiting and seeing. But did you see the, you know, the Dean Koontz book? I think it's The Eyes of Darkness. Did you see the pages in there? Somebody texted me these pages from The Eyes of Darkness, and it's basically like predicting the whole thing. Yeah. It says that like, around 2020, a pneumonia-like virus will sweep through the world. There'll be no like known treatment. It will come back 10 years later and then disappear. And in the book, the name of the strain is called Wuhan 400. You know, that's what you get for being single these days, I guess. But there's this girl, Madison Cunningham. She's amazing. She's gonna come. Actually, we're playing a show at Madison Square Garden for Halloween. Halloween. She's gonna come play with us there. She's great. She's really cool. No, I had like a hood up and a big jacket on, a hat on, and everything. It was pretty cold, and I turned my music off because I was listening to some music, and I'm walking up and I kind of see this group of guys, and they've all got like hoods up and their faces covered and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. and I'm walking up the street, and I keep kind of turning around, and the guys cross the road, and I'm like, oh, that's weird, yeah. And then I'm walking up, and I hear like there was like gravel on the pavement, so I hear like shuffling of feet trying to like catch up to me. So I cross the street, and then they cross the street, and I'm like, oh fuck's sake. And then I cross the street again, and then they cross the street again, and I'm like, oh for fuck's sake, I think I'm about to get robbed. So the guy's like, hey, can we talk to you for a minute? And there's nobody around, so I'm like, sure. And he's like, do you smoke weed? And I said, no. And he goes, do you want some weed? And I thought, no. And then he was like, what have you got on you? And they all kind of gathered round me. And this was something I've been a little bit pissed off about, is because I've filed a police report, so then obviously it goes in the press and everything. And they wrote that there was only one guy, so I'd like to clarify there was more than one guy. So he's like, what have you got on you? And I'm like, I don't have anything. And, they say stop fucking around and that kind of thing. So I have some cash in my pocket. So I said, I've got some cash. So I pull out some cash. He takes it from me. And then I had like my headphone jack just sticking into my pocket. And he was like, what's that plugged into? I'm like, oh, God's sake, it's my phone. He was like, pull out your phone. So I pull out my phone. And I'm thinking, okay, this is really annoying, but, I'll wipe it and get a new phone and kind of whatever. And then the guy's like, okay, unlock your phone. And the other one like pulls his shirt up, and he's got like a knife sticking in his pants. And I was like, shit. And I'm kind of thinking like, I just said like, I can't. I was like, mate, I can't unlock my phone. And then the guy's like, you've got 10 seconds to unlock your phone. He starts counting down. And I'm like, fuck, am I going to unlock my phone? Am I going to give him my phone? What's the deal? So then I try and give him my phone. And he's like, no, I need to unlock it. And I was like, I can't. And then there's a little pond behind them near where I live. And I thought about throwing it in the pond to just be like... And the lights changed, and there was like 2 cars coming. And I just like felt an opportunity, and I just sprinted, ran. Well, I ran into the road, and I tried to stop a car. And obviously, a madman runs into the road, tries to get in your car, you're not going to let him in. Try and get in another car, don't let me in. But now I'm slightly away from them, because I'm in the street. And I think, like, I just turned down and ran back towards, like, the little village area near where I live. So I just kind of sprinted, but usually when I'm out walking, I'm wearing, like, running stuff. And this was the one night I'm wearing, like, corduroy flares and shoes. And I was like, I'm going to have to fucking sprint all the way down this hill. So, I just sprinted down the thing. And I guess because they had some cash and stuff, they just ended up turning around. I mean, I went walking again the next day for that exact reason. I just didn't want it to stop me walking. Like, I walk a lot of nights when I'm home, and I really like it. I feel like it's, something I just really enjoy. And so I went, and actually I had some friends with me the next time. But I've been going since, and I have a night guard who comes to my house. It's uncomfortable, I think. It's really weird, and a lot of the time you end up drawing more attention to yourself if you're walking through a city with like some big guy behind you, I feel like a big way that it's changed is that back then, I feel like everyone kind of just felt like really grateful to be getting to make music as a job. And I feel like it's just a lot more competitive now. It was more competitive about like writing songs. Like, I feel like it's maybe just, it's like feels a little more like a business for a lot of people. I feel like back then you wrote a song for one reason, and then if it went number one, that was like amazing. And maybe I'm wrong, because I, wasn't live, so I could be completely wrong, but it doesn't feel like people were going, let's change this chorus a bit, because then it can be like a number one. I also think, like, obviously it's changed a lot because of, like, streaming and everything like that. I think a lot of the time now, like, I guess back then, if you loved someone's show or their music, you might go to the show and hang out and stuff, and now I guess there's just a lot of people, like, that feel involved a lot of the time. So if you're like, oh, I really like this song, then suddenly people are like, well, you guys should collaborate and get in the studio together. And sometimes it becomes like, it's not like an organic hangout. It becomes your kind of, people trying to, like, put you together. So when it happens and it's like organic and you run into people and you get on and end up hanging out, and if you play music or not, most of the time you probably don't, it's really nice. I think, like, if there's stuff that I really want to do and it kind of sounds like I just really want to be involved in it, then I'd love to do it. I don't see myself, like, wanting to go get a movie because I have, like, a year off and I want something to do. But if, when I heard about Dunkirk, it was like, when I got it, they said, don't take anything because we don't want it to be, like, actory. But, I mean, it was good, I guess, because the character was, like, a young soldier who didn't know what he was doing. It was kind of one of those things where, like, I learnt the script, I learnt what my lines were, but I never practiced them. I didn't, like, say them out loud. Yeah, I think someone had told me, like, just say the words as if it's the first time you're saying them. And I was like, I'm just going to make it the first time I'm saying them. I mean, I think you want to be, like, comfortable enough in case they make changes and stuff. I think a lot of the time when people, like, go over and over and over lines is you get stuck one way of saying stuff and you don't really know how to change it. So I kind of just tried to go at it as, like, it was also just the size of the set, and I was a massive fan of Chris Nolan before, so the whole thing was really intimidating. Like, the first day on set, walk out and there's, like, some destroyer marine ship in the water, and I was like, is that for us? And they're like, yes. And I was like, oh shit. It was really fun. Yeah. The thing with SNL was, I feel like I used to get so nervous before everything, before we would do anything, and to the point where, like, I used to be so nervous that I'd almost always just be really disappointed with something, because I just thought I was too nervous, or my hand was shaking, or something like that. And SNL, I don't really know why. I think maybe just because so much of the time you go on a show and you sit backstage for 3 hours, for 3 minutes, and you go out and it's like, okay, you finish the album, now you're selling the album. Let's go, this is the 3 minutes, don't mess it up, here we go. And SNL, like, you're there for the week, you've rehearsed everything, ultimately everything's written on the cards, so, like, you go in, like, all the writing sessions and stuff and make, like, little tweaks and stuff, but I mean, they're all so amazing over there. They're pretty great. My mum is, like, very chilled about the whole thing. They just, like, get it. I think it's difficult because so many people kind of have that, they have, like, pushy parents and that kind of thing, and they just kind of always stayed out of it. Those people have, like, looked after you your entire life, and still now, and especially with my mum, like, I wouldn't be here if she hadn't put me in for the thing. And when I moved to London for the show, she lent me some money to, go and buy a bunch of clothes and stuff. Ben was making a documentary with the band. I'd met him, we'd met a couple times, like, he tells the story of me asking to move in with him, and I cannot believe that I would have the gall to ask him after only spending a couple of days with him. So I'm pretty sure he offered, but I was moving. I'd got a house in his area, like 5 minutes from his place, and I'd moved out of my last place, and I basically had, like, 2 weeks where I was, going to do some painting and stuff in the house. and the painting turned into like ripping the insides out. So I moved in for a planned 2 weeks, and I'd never met his wife. We met for like coffee just so I'd met her and stuff. And but when I moved in, they'd only just recently moved in. There was nothing really in the attic, so I just kind of took my mattress from my flat and threw it on the floor in the attic. And I had that for about, like 9 months, and then eventually I got a bed. But it was probably the best move I ever made. I think I'd moved away from my family. I had like some feeling of family. We never really talked about work, so I'd go and play like show in Brazil and come home and just sit and watch TV with them. Like I moved to London, I was in the band, we're traveling, and suddenly there's no rules. And even as simple as they have like a kosher house. So I moved in, I didn't really get it, and the first week I ordered like a pepperoni pizza. Right at the time when I like started going out in London and drinking, and you could go into bars and, you know, little members clubs and get hammered and then go home, and you know, you're kind of like thrown into this thing, and I'm kind of there, and I'm like, well, I don't know his wife well enough to go back like off my face, you know. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. The biggest thing for me was probably when I moved to London and you start meeting all these new people and you meet other people in the industry and stuff. And the first thing I remember was like any dinner that I would go to or drinks thing, like it's such a world of gossip as the world is, but you know, within the industry everybody loves to gossip. And I just remember hearing so many stories about people being assholes and people like smashing shit and people throwing food and all of that shit and just people being weird to other people. And I just remembered like how it made me think of those people. And I was like, I really don't want anyone to tell a story like that about me. I feel like, I mean, it's always kind of a balance thing, some of it, because you wanna date normally, but then you also want to protect it so that it can be normal. Like, I think a good example is like, you know, if you want to go for dinner with someone, New York's pretty busy, and if you want to have like a quiet dinner, you maybe want to go like in the back door or something, but then that's not a normal date either. Yeah, I think ultimately anyone who's gonna get it is gonna understand that, because I think a big part of it is like you wanna be able to spend enough time with each other where you can get to know each other before you have to deal with all of the extra stuff, and you're kind of like solid enough in what this is. It's like, okay, you know how I feel about you, I know how you feel about me. We're gonna kind of, we're already a relationship, and then you add the stuff on the top, rather than you go out for dinner with someone and it's like, oh, that's his, you know, that's his girlfriend or whatever, and you're like, well, it's not, and now it's weird because we're like, are we dating or are we not dating? Like, I try as hard as I can to keep the two worlds, kind of would like to do, yeah. Relationship is so different now, like people are, you know, open and people have different like things, but yeah, I'd like to think I would want that at some point, yeah. No, I'm pretty lucky with them. Like, I can't, you know, I feel like when you grow up and you understand a little more about relationships even, then you kind of, you know, you get it when, you know, about your parents getting divorced, but ultimately I think whether they want to be together or not, all you can really ask for is them to like support you and love you. Well, I got up this morning at 5:30. You know, you won't find me in bed past the crack of noon. No. Yeah, but I go back and forth with with doing it and just doing it in my phone. A lot of the time, yeah. Yeah. And I was like, it felt so annoying. Like people, like friends' phone numbers and stuff. Nah. Yeah, but for the purpose of hopefully not getting mugged again, no. Yeah, a lot of voice notes. We recorded a lot of the new album at Real World, which is Peter Gabriel's studio in England. But we all got in there and we just wanted to blast Sledgehammer in the room so bad. And we were like, do you mind if we do it? And the guys working there were like, yeah. But I love it so much. The music video is one of my favorite videos of all time. I love it because, I think it's like the best mixed song ever. I do a lot of writing with Mitch. We met during the first album, when we were making the first album. This guy Ryan, who was engineering, was Mitch's roommate, and we had a guitarist who was supposed to come in, and Ryan was like, I can get Mitch to come in. So Mitch came in, and he was just playing, we were writing together, and it was kind of like, so we met, 2010, and then he was working kind of always, and we had a band while we were in One Direction, and then when we finished and we started thinking about, when we'd finished the first album, we started putting the band together. I called Adam, and he'd just finished the tour, and I was like, what are you doing next year? He said, nothing. And I was like, great. I don't know if I could say it's something he shouldn't have done, because I just didn't feel that way. So it's hard for me to like condemn it, because I don't. Especially in hindsight, looking at it now, the last thing that I would have wanted is for him to have stayed there if he didn't want to be there. Yeah, I think like it was a shame. It was a shame, and like it was like in a tour, and I think if he'd come to us and maybe kind of discussed it a little more, we might have found a way to kind of do it a little smoother. But ultimately, if you don't want to be there, then you don't want to be there. And like, I think like I'd been in the band since I was 16, and there was 5 of us, and then we had like a lot of managers, and we had a lot of people at the label, and you're in these meetings, and it's like, are we going to do another album? Yes. Are we going to do another tour? Yes. Are we going to do this, that, and that? And all of those decisions obviously affect your life in a massive way. And every decision I've made since I was 16 was as part of a group, and I kind of just felt like I needed to work out. I didn't necessarily know who I was as an adult. It was like I had to go off, and if somebody says, do you want to go do this? And I'm like, what do we think? Or do I want to do that? So it's a little difficult, I guess, when like, I think if you're just starting out fresh, you have the ability to like make a ton of mistakes. For example, if you're an actor who's just starting out, you can make a ton of bad movies, and then you make like your great movie and stuff. And I definitely felt a little bit of like, I'm trying to work out what exactly my solo music sounds like, who I am a bit, and I don't really want to like start fucking it up kind of in front of people. Sarah John, well, it's Sarah's band, because it's after every show, it's either the first or second thing that people say. Show was great. Drummer's incredible. So Mitch starts going out with them, and every night they'd tell me like, oh, Mitch was crazy last night, doing all this stuff. And then I remember a couple nights I was like, what did Mitch do last night? And they were like, oh no, we didn't see him. Oh, I just got some dinner with Sarah. And then when we started rehearsing together, he would play, and then over the weeks he would kind of just staring at each other the whole time we would play. Oh yeah, with the fish. About the initial stages of infatuation with somebody. I would have to say they always go wrong so far. I mean, the common denominator would be me. I think Adore You is more about, like, it's more about that honeymoon period than the other part. I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of like any relationship, you know, once you get past that stage, then the exciting part becomes that you're like a team. I mean, I can't say I've had like a lot of relationships, like proper relationships, but, you know, that can be hard. I try and keep the fame thing out of the relationship thing as much as possible. Well, we call sometimes. I thought about getting one in London, and then, because I live in London, and for me it was like I had a bit of a hard time getting out of my own way enough to go to therapy in the first place. And I felt like there was a big part of me that was like, oh, everybody I know is in therapy, and I was like, I just don't think I need it, and I want to be the guy who didn't have to go to therapy. And then somebody just described it to me as like, you can tell somebody everything. You can talk at somebody, and then you pay them, and they're not allowed to tell anyone. But for me, like, it's much easier to have one person who is like a vessel who I can tell everything to. And I feel like if I started having two different people, it would confuse me a bit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I think she, I mean, I think she's amazing. She, like, definitely, I don't know. She, like, yeah. No. She's great. Yeah. This was, I think, like, a day. I mean, they have, like, different suits and, like, different colours and stuff. And, you know, we give a shit. The aforementioned mushrooms were in play. I jumped out a window. I was high. I don't know if I thought it would be cool. I don't know. And I hit my chin on my knee, and I bit like the end of my tongue off. No, it was pretty painful, but it's okay now. And sometimes when if I'm really tired, I can feel my mouth get lazy, and I get like a very small lisp, and it's gone. Yes. I don't feel like it's chosen as much as who I want to give a break. It's more like I have to hear it every night. I drink a little bit, I don't drink a lot. Weed makes me tired, and I don't like smoking. I don't do it when I'm working or anything. I feel like when I was a kid, there's, you know, you kind of dress, I mean, you're in uniform, and then when you're around friends, there's so much like pressure. Wear the cool thing or have the right shoes and that kind of thing, and I feel like I'm just like a lot more comfortable probably with myself now than I used to be, and it's kind of like, I don't know, that looks fun, and I think I didn't want to be a hypocrite, and if there's something that seems fun and I want to try it on, then I'll wear it. Don't really try not to, I guess with like clothing and stuff, I just try and not take it seriously. It's not like, it doesn't feel like performative. It's kind of one of those things where, you know, you like, people are like, oh, we want you to be yourself, and then you do that kind of stuff, and people are like, kind of realize pretty relatively early on that the whole like trying to please everyone thing just doesn't work. It's like it's just like a storage unit, yeah. Okay. Ooh, let me think. No, I think we're good. More into like an old school courting with putting stuff out there. There's not a lot of like interviews where I talk a lot about like personal stuff, and for someone else to do that, I think it's like it's like flattering. Even if the song isn't that flattering, you've still spent time on it, and ultimately, using Taylor as an example, she's a great songwriter. So, a lot of the time, yeah. No.